Rainbow Dash sped as fast as she possibly could go through the town of Ponyville. On a normal day, Dash would be flying a little slower, or at least a little higher from the ground. But then again, there was no normality in this day. Her wings quickly changed positions, narrowly avoiding buildings and trees. Taking turns both left and right, Dash tried to focus on the subject at the hoof. Rather than rather than panic and fear around her, Ms. Colts of Phillies yelled and screamed alike, uniting in a large, incoherent maelstrom of utter madness and chaos. Scootaloo was all on her own, and time was running out. A couple weeks ago, planet-sized meteoroid was sighted on the outskirts of space. Not much attention was given, but when the scientists concluded that it was heading straight for Equestria, all hell broke loose. After a final greeting and speech, the princesses of the sun and moon set out to destroy the danger once and for all. They haven't been heard from since. Rainbow briefly looked to inspect how much time she had left. A black colossal shape filled the sky, with flames of red and yellow burning at every side. With a gulp, the Pegasus continued on her way through the streets. She had plenty of time left, even though it didn't seem enough. Since the day of Princess's departure, a group of scientists searched for an alternate way of ending the meteoroid's path of destruction. Another plan was created but quickly abandoned. It was commonly thought that the race of unicorns could emit enough power to stop the impact of the meteoroid before it was too late. Before the plan could be carried out, it was proven that, if successful, the attempt would systematically abort unit, unit unintentionally wipe out all life. The discharge energy from the momentum of the meteor was simply released, effectively destroying the entire planet in an explosion the size of 1,000 suns. Either way, the meteoroid would kill them all, and there was absolutely nothing they could do about it. Now, death wasn't exactly at the top of Dash's priorities, but given the circumstances, it would have to be. It wasn't as if she was new to the idea of dying. Stunt flying came with its own perils and dangers. One wrong move, and you're dead. Simple as that. Dash was ready for that, however. She got up in the morning knowing that the day could potentially be her last. She just didn't realize it. It would happen so decidedly, nor that it was actually going to happen. Rainbow Dash suddenly stopped mid-flight. Scootaloo's house was directly on the left. With the dwindling time she had left, Dash climbed the stairs and barged through the door, not caring about her manners at this point in time. "Scootaloo?" she asked firmly. When there was no reply, the Pegasus tried a second time. "Hey, Scootaloo, you in there?" Again, there was no response. There was no time for messing around. Dash had to find her quick. She briefly glanced inside every room on the ground floor before turning her attention to the stairs. Without a second thought, Rainbow charged up the series of steps and yelled again, "Scootaloo, come on, where are you?" Who, who's there?" A shaky reply echoed from the sound of things. It, have, it must have come from the bedroom. Dash did as her name suggested, turning her right corner to find a young filly hiding under several bed sheets with an orange coat and a purple rustled mane. It can only be one filly. "It's me, Scootaloo. How are you holding up?" Dash asked cautiously. With almost the same speed as Rainbow Dash herself, Scootaloo leapt out of bed to wrap her hooves around the older mare. She quickly buried her head deep into Dash's side, taking full advantage of the surprise she caused. It was enough. Tough and Rainbow Dash soon felt tears matting her own fur. "Not good, Rainbow Dash," Scootaloo said between sobs. "Not good at all." As the surprise wore off, Dash regained her train of thought. She quickly returned Scootaloo's movements in equal measure, bringing the young mare closer for a tight, comforting embrace. The pair simply sat on the floor together, one crying and the other one barely holding back tears. Despite the obvious circumstances, Dash still had an image to uphold. No, no one, not even death, can take that away from her. It's only, it's okay, kid. We got, we'll get through this together. Want anything to do for the? Dash almost said last time, but quickly changed her mind. Skulu was only a young filly, and the sense would only make matters worse. Although she probably knew what was coming already. Skulu certainly didn't need any reminders. The what? The what, Dash? Skulu asked, hopefully sniffing deeply. For the record, for the record, anything in particular? But why me, Dash? Why did you come for me instead of your actual friends? That took Rainbow Dash by surprise. In spite of recent events, it was that sentence that surprised her from the most, forcing her to release an involuntary grasp. A gasp. Dash pulled out and hugged Aunt Skulu with her eyes focused directly on her. Because they're not on their own, Scoots. They all have their families. Or at least someone to comfort them. For you, that someone just happens to be me. 6 ponies stood in a close circle around the bookshelves with the wooden furniture of the library. The atmosphere was just gloomy and upsetting. As each of the mayor's expressions, they all stood in total silence, seemingly waiting for another to speak. Well, I suppose you all heard about the news, said Twilight Sparkle before sighing deeply. We have a day less than we predicted. Tomorrow is the last day we've got. Again, the room quieted down. Twilight Sparkle began once more. I'm sorry, girls, but I can't be with you when it happens. I'm going back to Camelot for my families. Spike will be going back with me tonight. Suddenly, every other pony started talking at the same time. When each of them stopped to let others speak, they all repeated their own sentences again only seconds later. The group shared their laughter together, albeit a small, bleak laughter. Everyone besides herself pointed at Rarity, nodded gratefully. My friends, Rarity began, Sweetie Belle is all on her own. My parents are not able to join us at such a short notice, and even if they were capable of doing so, I cannot simply leave my sister. I apologize, but I cannot join you for tomorrow. Me too. My animals don't exactly know what's coming, and I don't plan on telling them, said Fluttershy. Even though I value our own friendship as much as them, I I can't. Pinkie Pie rested her hoof on Fluttershy's, who was obviously becoming more and more upset. The Pegasus buried her head in Pinkie Pie's fur, releasing small, muffled sobs. I can't either. My family back on the rock farm don't really have contact with the outside world. I doubt they even heard about this whole thing. And I can't just turn my back on them now. Besides, I haven't talked to them in such a long time. It would be just a shame if I didn't visit, Pinkie Pie added with a very weary smile. Well, gals, I can't leave my own family behind. Either Apple Bloom is so scared right now. I just wouldn't be right, Applejack said, while tipping her hat over her eyes. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. After the 5 had spoken, they all turned to Rainbow Dash, who was simply staring at the ground. When she realized they were all looking at her, she chose to respond. Applejack nudged her gently, saying, If you don't want to say, that's okay. Just tell us if it's yes or no. Dash rubbed her neck with a hoof before answering. I've got some things I need to tie up, she said. I've got some things I need to tie up, she said, her voice unchanging and monotone. I can't be there for you guys. There's some pony out there who doesn't have us awesome friends like all you for me. I have to. I want to be there for her. Understand? Dot. Um, Back to normal time. Rainbow Dash, can you hear me? Dash was abruptly brought back to reality despite the conditions of reality. What was the foreboding death and all? She adjusted back fairly quickly, turning around to face Skulu. She made a response. What is it, Scoots? I don't know, she explained. You looked like you were daydreaming. I was. But it doesn't matter, Dash said. So have you thought of anything to do? Well, a little fresh air in the park would be nice. Was that it? Not even an hour left, and all Skulu wanted to do was breathe some air. Rainbow Dash placed a hoof on her chin and contemplated. She could, of course, spice things up a bit. Sure, but you have to beat me there. Without even waiting for a response, Rainbow dashed out of the room and down the stairs. She heard the sounds of giggling and painting behind her, which suggested that Skulu was only mere inches away before long. Dash felt the grassy earth beneath her hooves, realizing that she was outside. The noise of the town had died down now. All those waiting with families and friends for their final moment had obviously gathered because not a single pony could be seen on the streets. The silence was eerie and strange, but Dash continued running nonetheless. Both of the running ponies' laughter echoed around the empty space, so much so, in fact, that several other ponies appeared at the windows to investigate the unexpected noise. Skulu had their families caught up with Rainbow, and they were at the final stretch. The park was in sight, and with every hoofstep, Dash was getting closer as she was running. However, she turned to see Skulu laughing happily, as if all of her troubles and woes had miraculously disappeared, as if her impending death suddenly meant nothing, and that the good old carefree days were back, if only for an instant. Anger, like she ever known, boiled in Dash's mind. She chose not to speak for fear of scaring Skulu, rather thought in her mind, who was death to take that away from her? Skulu and all the other foals, for that matter, were too young for this insanity. Why should they suffer? What evil had they committed? It just didn't seem fair. And that was then it hit. Rainbow Dash's life wasn't fair. Life wasn't fair, and that was that. The only way of changing that rule was by changing it by themselves. So far, that exact purpose Dash slowed down, only slightly though, so as not to appear noticeable to the young mare sprinting beside her. If good didn't happen naturally, then Dash would damn well make it happen by herself. As predicted, Skulu won the race. She turned back to Rainbow Dash with a wide smile etched across her entire face. I won, Dash! I won the race! The young man exclaimed while panting vigorously between words. You sure did, Scoots. You sure did. And with that, the looming absurdity and reality of reality returned. Skulu's smile quickly returned to a frown as the gravity of the situation sank back in. She seemingly no longer cared about winning the race, despite having a joyful doing so 1 moment ago. So, do you want to go? Do you want to go sit down for a while? Dash tried. Yeah, okay, said Skulu, looking up from the tiny fiery ball of space rock above before Dash could even stop her. No, Skulu! Rainbow Dash yelled while pushing the young pony's head back down. Don't do that to yourself, Scoots. Rainbow Dash looked back at Skulu, who had obviously not been expecting such a strong reaction. A lone tear fell down her cheek, and Dash's insanity felt responsible. Just don't look up, okay? She asked before pulling Skulu into a short hug. Just don't. Dash swept her hoof lightly over the filly's cheek, removing the fallen tear from her face. Okay, Dash. Let's go for that break now. Before long, the pair had found a comfortable spot of grass to sit on. Dash made sure a large tree stood in the way of the meteoroid so Scootaloo would be unable to see it. Rainbow Dash looked back at Scootaloo, who was seemingly deep in thought. She decided to leave the young Pegasus alone, giving her the space time she needed. Minutes passed before the silence was broken. Dash, Scootaloo began. Will it hurt? Rainbow Dash let out a sigh. She wanted to be truthful to the kid, to tell her that she was actually going to burn like she was in hell itself. Just kidding. She actually knew less than she did. But it wasn't that simple. Sometimes a little white lie was better than telling the truth, especially when the truth explained the inevitable demise of all life as they knew it. No, of course it won't, she lied. It will be as quick as me, and you won't feel a thing. Again, silence resumed between the two ponies. Dash began to pound on the ground softly as she thought about all the things she could have been doing. Running. Well, she'd already done a bit of that today. Dash liked a bit of variety in her life, so that was out swimming in the lake, perhaps. Perhaps not. The water would always make her feathers go wonky. Water, as it turned out, wasn't very useful to wings. Then again, why don't we outrun it? Rainbow Dash, why don't we outrun it? Rainbow Dash blinked at the quest and then blinked again. She knew, deep down in her heart of hearts, that neither of them would make it through the next hour or so. Even if they managed to put a couple of miles between the meteoroid and themselves. She looked deeply into the young filly's eyes, wondering if she knew the full implications of the end of life, of all life as we knew it. When all Dash saw was a pair of scared, pleading eyes, she knew what had to be done. We could try, I suppose, Dash began before being interrupted by Scootaloo. Please, Dash. Isn't it at least worth a try? Hey, I was about to say we could, Rainbow Dash countered playfully. Besides, my wings can do with a workout, despite the light-hearted nature of Dash's words. Scootaloo didn't respond in quite the same way as she expected. She simply stared to the ground glumly, as if awaiting further command. Don't give up just yet, kid. We've got a long flight ahead of us. The man picked Scootaloo up from the ground and placed her on her own back. Dash unfolded her wings, and with the premature flap, she returned to Scootaloo, saying, Hold on tight, Scoots. Rainbow Dash jumped in the air. She flew away from the meteoroid. As futile as it seemed, she tried nonetheless, effortlessly working her wings. Dash released something if she was going to go out at all. She'd go out flying. Flying was second nature. Flying was second nature to her. This wouldn't seem right or proper if she didn't keep that notion. The wind picked up as she flew faster. Despite the bareness of it, Dash still carried on soon. She could feel Scootaloo slipping off her back, and with a quick push of her hoof, she secured the young filly. I said hold on, she repeated, though the violent gust. When she saw a nod from her passenger, she returned her focus on the flight. Rainbow Dash didn't exactly know where they were going. As long as the incoming meteoroid was on their backs, she had no other reason to worry about direction. But before long, the pair crossed over Camelot. They both stared down at it, regardless of how high they were. Dash tried to look for that particularly lavender unicorn, the signal to her that all was well, despite it actually being otherwise, but had no such luck. Time passed gradually. but all it did so, Rainbow Dash began hearing the cheering and hollering of a certain filly. She looked back to find Skulu, who had her hooves raised high in the air. Somehow the knowledge that Skulu had never been so high before had evaded Dash, and she only remembered just then. This could be fun. Rainbow Dash slowly began tilting sideways, only slightly at first, but she soon went completely horizontal. She continued to look forward, as if nothing had happened. This was only interrupted when Skulu began gently tugging at her mate. She turned around quizzically, asking if anything was wrong. But the look on her face, Dash could tell she wasn't enjoying it, and the yawn on most had been quite straining. As the mare could see a definite bead of sweat rolling down Skulu's forehead. She couldn't quite understand what she was saying, but even if she did, the quest would have been denied. This was simply too much fun. Dash soon decided that enough was enough. She couldn't keep the young Pegasus hanging thus. Explained why she began spiraling rapidly. Barrel rolls was already insanely satisfying to pull off, but with the passenger too, well, the more the merrier. As she always said, the continuous rolls. God damn it. The continuous rolls started to make her head hurt, but she didn't care. Fun overtook the pain. After a moment, however, Dash could feel Skulu's grip losing. That really was enough, she thought. So Dash chose to fly straight once more. The wind instantly became more tolerable and easier to navigate through. Moreover, she could hear Skulu's verbally abusing her. "You're a complete ass," she tried. "Seriously, what is your problem? God damn. What is your problem? Are you crazy or something?" Rainbow suddenly felt a need to laugh, and she burst out in giggles. Scootaloo only got angrier with a frown. "Why are you laughing at? Trying to kill me? You're being in a loony bin. Seriously, what's so funny?" "You are, kid," said Dash, looking back at her. "You are." And then the world turned into darkness. "It's okay. That's okay, Rainbow Dash," Twilight Sparkle said. "If you don't want to tell us, it's absolute." "That's okay, Rainbow Dash," Twilight Sparkle said. "If you don't want to tell us, it's absolutely fine." Despite the friendly tone of this, Dash just remained resolute for some inexplicable reason. She didn't feel it was right to tell them, to show them what her true intentions were, and that those intentions overruled the importance of her own friends. "So that is it, girls. The last time in the same room together," Twilight reported. Peaceful upon the room, every pony seemed uncomfortable with the sudden revelation, aside from Pinkie Pie. "Well, shouldn't we be having fun? Why not make it a party?" she tried. The truth is, Rarity, I don't think this is the right time, Pinkie." "But why not?" "Well, I'm sure it just doesn't seem right." "Let's make it right then. Come on, Dashy, don't you want to party for the last time?" "I'll pass, Pinkie," Rainbow Dash said reluctantly. "Anyone? Party?" Pinkie Pie looked from friend to friend, hoping to find some confirmation. When all she received was 5 frowns, she sat down on the floor. "Well, that's just great, isn't it?" she began, her lip quivering at the same time. "You know we're all going to die tomorrow, and all you girls want to do for our last moments is sit there." An involuntary. Gosh, this is so sad. But I can't cry. My eyes are just so dry. An involuntary sob escaped from the party pony. Before she continued, after all those good times we had, you girls just want to mope around." A tear dripped to the wooden floor beneath Pinkie. "Isn't that just fantastic?" More tears fell to the wood, forming a small puddle. "I don't want to die, girls. I just don't want to leave all this behind. It's not fair. And before Pinkie Pie could finish her sentence, Rainbow Dash joined her on the floor. She brought the despairing mare in for a comforting hug, letting her cry fiercely over her own shoulder. Dash didn't care about the tears falling on her fear. Pinkie Pie was far more important. Her friends joined the group hug, shedding tears of their own. Dash looked around at the huddle of her friends. Somehow, in this mass of emotion and sadness, Rainbow Dash found solace. They were her friends, and nothing, not even a meteoroid, was going to separate them. Even if they weren't going to be there for each other tomorrow, they would still be together, together in heart and mind, together in the end. The dream changed silently. Instead of being surrounded by her friends, Rainbow Dash found herself falling through the midnight sky, a burning fireball to the left of her, and clouds to the right. Dash didn't exactly know where she was. She knew she was going down, and was that was about it. Skulu was above her, reaching out with her hooves. Well, she fell after her. For some reason, there was about sense of urgency in her voice, almost as if she was trying to contact Dash herself. But how was that possible? This was a dream, right? Quite a good dream at that. The falling effect was very vivid. She could literally feel the wind on her back as she fell, and the motion written on Skulu's face was very realistic. Dash could honestly see a tear roll up in Skulu's cheek as she flew downwards, not to mention the "this isn't a dream." With sudden, a burst of speed, Rainbow Dash flew up into the sky, catching Skulu in her hose. The explanation could wait, as getting out of danger's way was far more important. When Dash thought all was clear, she leveled out, continuing her flight in much the same way as before. "Skulu, what just happened?" Dash asked. "I don't know. There was a massive noise, and you just stopped flying," said Skulu, who had her hose over her eyes. She was obviously traumatized by the event, as Dash could feel Skulu's small tremors of fear on her back. "And then we just started falling. Down and down we went, and I just couldn't get your attention." "It's okay, kid. It's okay, kid. We're fine now." But, but we're not really, are we?" A sudden world-shaking roar burst through the air. It was so loud that Dash had to cover ears for protection after indicating that Skulu to do the same. She couldn't feel the vibrations of the noise through her own body, and from that aspect alone, Rainbow instinctively knew that the end was eternity. The end was approaching. Any noise of that sort of scale couldn't exactly be good. After that seemed like an eternity, the sound died down. It didn't leave, however, as Dash could quite easily make out the same continuous note. To her gratification, it was quieter, but still present nonetheless. "Rainbow, Dash, what was that?" Dash decided to ignore the question. Sometimes it was better to say nothing at all, rather than to deliver bad news. She looked up at the sky to confirm that she already knew. It wasn't night, as she previously thought. It turned out the meteoroid was partially blotting out the sun, making the sky dark. As she thought about it more, the darker it became, and the louder the sound grew. "Rainbow Dash," Skulu mumbled. "I'm scared." The older mare turned the face of Philly, her magenta eyes boring into Skulu's own. As Dash continued flying, she raised a hoof to Skulu's cheek, lightly brushing it. She put on an encouraging smile, despite her own feelings of fear. "Me too, Skulu. But we have to be brave now," Dash said. "Just close your eyes and it will be over by the time you open." God damn it. It'll be over by the time you open them again. Skulu did as instructed. Skulu did as instructed, covering her eyes with her hooves. as well as closing them. What will happen after it happens, Dash? I'm not sure, Skulu, Rainbow admitted, but it isn't that exciting. Everything was now fully concealed in darkness. Rainbow Dash looked to her left and right, but simply saw nothing but black. Despite this, she continued flying. The noise had now increased to tolerable levels of volume, but she still continued nevertheless. Dash didn't know where she was going, but she did know that she was going. The image of her friends flashed through Dash's mind. She saw them in a group hug they shared only a day ago. She saw the day of Twilight Sparkle's arrival, and how happy they were because of it. She saw their willingness to support her friend as the young flyer's competition. But most of all, they saw their cheer and joy and happiness in the wonderful times they had all created together. Despite the end, they were all, they were all there with her, and oh, how she loved it. Then Dash saw, nor thought, no more. The end. Oh my god, that was so sad. Ah, I'm gonna go to sleep now. It's 11:24, and I just want to read this because I heard it, and it just sounded so sad. This took me fucking 21 minutes. God damn it, this is gonna take a long time to save. I'm gonna go lay down and feel sad for myself now. Goodbye. Have a good night. And a very Merry Christmas to all of you. And a Happy New Year.